Welcome to the Key to Growth podcast, Home Services Marketing Unlocked, with me, your host, Jen McKee. Every week, I sit down with top marketers in the trades, from the brains behind $100 million companies to those scaling from 1 to 3, even to 10 million, breaking down exactly how they got where they are and uncover the secret to their success. If you're ready to grow your business and get real, actionable insights, you are in the right place. Let's unlock the key to your marketing success starting now. Welcome back, everybody, to the Key to Growth podcast. Again, I am your host, Jen McKee, and like every episode, I am really excited about this one. Today, I have Angie Snow and Laura. Gosh, I always forget to ask people how to pronounce their last name before I try to say it and completely butcher it. So, Shinneman?
Yep.
Shinneman. This is such a treat because Laura is the mastermind behind the Western Heating and Air social media presence, which is incredible. And we're going to talk a lot about it, but be sure that you go and look them up on Instagram and TikTok if it still exists when this podcast is being released. But I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit and then we'll get into it. So Laura, why don't we start with you?
Okay. My name's Laura. I work in marketing at Western, and I've been doing the social media for about 6 years across all of the different platforms. So super fun.
Awesome. And Angie?
Hello, my name is Angie Snow. I am one of the prior owners of Western Heating and Air and currently a industry advisor at Service Titan. So it's super fun to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm so happy to have you guys here. And I have Angie here because, you know, in this podcast, we like to hear all the how we got there type things. And so with Angie being there from the beginning, she can really talk to us about how Western got to the success that it had. And then Laura, I'm again, like as a social media person, I'm so excited to kind of nerd out on this topic. So let's get started. So let's talk about how long did you guys have Western Air and how did you get started when you had no customers? Or maybe you started with a list of customers.
Yeah, well, this is a fun story. So my husband and I actually bought Western Heating. It was already an existing company. It began in 95 and then we bought it in 2007. So it had been around for 12 years. And the current owner, he had no marketing strategy. It was word of mouth purely, and he put his name in the phone book. His wife told me they would always post a picture of him in the phone book with it because he looked like a nice guy and people wanted a nice guy to do business with. But that was the strategy. And so when we bought the business, we came into it and we just continued that strategy. We made sure we had a listing in the phone book. And after we really should think about getting a website. And so we came up with this really cool URL, timeforcomfort.com. And we thought that was brilliant. So we were timeforcomfort.com, but our company was Western Heating and Air Conditioning. And as we started joining these alliances like Service Nation Alliance and working with a few coaches, they kept saying, you know, you really need to get your URL to match your company name because that doesn't make sense. And so we drug our feet on that. It took us a long time to change our URL on our website, but we finally did. I mean, probably 8 years into it. So we had really established a presence. We had a jingle with timeforcomfort.com, but we realized we needed to line those things up. So really, that was kind of the plan. Once we had the website in 2012, I decided we needed to start working on reviews. That was when Google and reviews started to become kind of a thing. And so I teamed up with a third-party company called Review Buzz, and we really started working on getting reviews for the team. And that was kind of our focus to increase our online presence in the beginning.
I think that's so interesting that you guys went all in like on this other name. And so
Right?
You're almost like vying for attention, which you can get traction in both ways. And you probably were, but you were having to almost do like double work with these two different
brands.
Yeah. So what happened to the URL?
So what we ended up doing, we still had that URL. If anybody goes to timeforcomfort.com, it is now forwarded to Western Heating Air. Is it plumbing now as well, Laura? I can't remember what the current URL. It might still just be
Western Heating Air.
WesternHeatingAir.com. And so it's forwarded. All of our emails are forwarded because we had a whole a Gmail platform set up. So all of that is still there. But yeah, so we totally went all in on it's WesternHeatingAir.com. We redid the jingle. So there's some money definitely to invest in that. We had to rewrap the bands because they all said timeforcomfort.com on them. But that's okay. It was really important that we did that for sure. And it's helped, I think, our online presence a lot. I can't imagine what it would be like if that was still our brand, our website. We probably would not be where we are today.
Yeah. It doesn't speak to who you guys are either.
Right.
Like it's very broad. And it's great for, I can see as an owner standpoint that you're like, no, it totally makes sense. But like, oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we made a lot of mistakes early on in our company. You know, my husband has his degree in construction management and my degree is in education. And so neither of us have a marketing or business degree. So whatever we were doing, we really had it was all things that we learned once we'd entered the industry and started working with other coaches. And that was actually one pivotal moment for me at Western is I decided to hire an online marketing coach. And she was a local coach here in Utah and she was working with a lot of online companies. And she really is the one that kind of helped us get a better strategy for our website. She helped me start our social media pages. She helped me with a lot of those things. And her name is Lacey, and she was amazing. And I would kind of have her do part of it with me. But that's really what kicked off our social media was Lacey. She helped us get those going. She helped us kind of understand best practices with those and really start building our presence in social media.
Yeah, it sounds like from what you're saying that a lot of your growth came from reaching out to other people who knew what they were doing and what would make you successful. So besides your online presence, what about your community presence or other things that you think were really impactful when you guys first took this company over? Like I know you said the yellow pages and then of course they kind of disappeared, but were there other things that you were doing that you think made an impact?
Absolutely. I can think of 3 different things. The first one is we decided to wrap our vans. When we bought the company, it was the typical white van with the logo on the side. So we wanted to do these monuments because we're in Utah. So we were thinking about Western, Monument Valley. That's like the iconic Western scene, right? So we put Monument Valley on all of our vans with our logo. And we thought we were so cool and so awesome. And then we noticed other companies that are not heating and air, but like a graphics company put it on their van too. And we're seeing these monuments on other vehicles. And I'm like, this is not going to work. But we did wrap one of our vehicles pink in 2009 to go with the Susan G. Komen. And it sounds like such a normal thing to do now. But back then it was unheard of. No one had pink vans. And we got a lot of attention. In fact, the technicians that were driving it, like kids would mistake it for an ice cream truck. Like it was weird. That was one thing, was wrapping the vans and trying to stand out. The second thing we did was we started the Gift of Heat program in 2015. So this is our 9th year doing it, where we just tried to get the information out. I really had to do a lot of marketing in newspapers. That's where people were still getting their information. People were not online very much at that point still. And so, hey, nominate a family in need and we'll give them a free furnace. And so we started doing that and we got teamed up with a radio station 2 years after. I just put guerrilla marketing to the work those first couple of years, but then we have a local radio station now that teams up with us and they help cover the cost of getting the word out, which is so, oh man, that was a huge win for us to get our name out in the community, make our presence made. And the third thing we did was we supported the Emily Effect in 2016, which is we saw a lot of pink vans, but we wanted something different and unique to Western. And the Emily Effect, if you go to the emilyeffect.org, you can learn about it. It's an organization that supports moms who struggle with postpartum depression and named after one of my friends, Emily, who actually passed away from that awful disease. And so near and dear to my heart. And it was special because our partnership with the Emily Effect has actually helped us recruit technicians who come and say, hey, I saw on your website, you support moms who struggle with postpartum depression and my wife does. And she told me I need to come work for you. And so
Oh my gosh.
it's made a big difference. And so I think some of those things really kind of helped us establish a presence in the community and make a name for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting as I have recorded more of these episodes. A theme is coming that recently where when you're looking for how to support the community, finding something that is really meaningful for you is going to make a big difference on how much it impacts your business. And so clearly that was a really, really personal organization to be a part of. And because it's so close to your heart, it makes it that much more powerful and authentic whenever you're doing it. And you get to support something that is really big for you guys. So that's really amazing. And I'm sorry about your friend too. That's hard.
It's been really special, and the community responded well because it was a big topic in the news. And I think there are so many women who struggle with postpartum depression, but don't tell anyone. And there's like this stigma around it. And so the whole purpose of that organization was to end the stigma and to bring light to this and make it okay to talk about it. And I think so many people, I mean, 1 in 7 women in Utah struggle with it. The stats are probably more now, but it's a real thing, and it's very, very tough for a lot of women.
Yeah. And a lot of women don't even know that that's what they're
No.
experiencing. And so by bringing attention to it, you're giving a name to something that they might not even know. And when you can name it and you can see it, then you can solve it. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of want to shift gears and switch over to social media. And so we can see through Angie's journey, there were a lot of changes that were made to Western. And then you guys were, okay, so how did Laura get in the picture? How about that?
Well, I will tell you, we had the opportunity to participate in a private equity group back in 2021, which was so fun because we had just rebranded everything at Western. We'd been using the same logo for 25 years. And so in 2020, we came out with a fresh logo, something that would really make us look like a premier company. We were a premier company, but our logo didn't match that. And so we rebranded everything in 2020. We were acquired by private equity in 2021. And as a private equity continued to kind of burst, that was a big time for that. We were able to meet Laura and her husband, Doug, and her brother-in-law, Brent, with Main Street Heating and Cooling. And they seemed like a great fit to join our group. And since they were very close to us region-wise, and another cool thing about them is their values so closely aligned with our values at Western. Like they just had these big hearts, and they were serving the community, and they were involved in the community, and they were out there to do the right thing for the customer. Even if it meant they were losing money, we do what's right. And so because our values align so similarly, we decided to join forces and tuck them into Western and become one big company together. And it has been like the coolest thing. So this happened last year in 2023, last summer, so about a year and a half ago. And at that point, I mean, Laura had already established an amazing social media account for Main Street Heating and Cooling. Like this is her wheelhouse. This is her realm. She'd done it. And I think that was one of the biggest hesitations for her to join Western because she'd worked so hard to build up that social media, that community. She had a strong community. And for her, it was, I'll let her, but I think that was one of the hardest things for her to think about giving that up. So we needed to find another solution so she didn't have to give it up. So it was an exciting time, but it was a little challenging as well.
Yeah, it was very stressful, but really exciting. And it's been amazing. Ryan and Angie, you can't ask for better people to work with. So it's been an amazing partnership and a merger, but it was difficult because I felt like we had built a community and with genuine relationships, and we had built a brand, and I stood behind that brand, and it was really hard to be like, wait, now it's different. But our audience has shifted with us, and they've seen we were just super honest and transparent about the journey and about what was going on, and people were really supportive and have continued to support us, and more people have joined on, and it's just grown, and we've moved across platforms, but it's been a really great partnership.
Okay, so you were Main Street and then switched to Western. And so did you keep the same platforms and just tell everyone like, okay, we have a new name now?
Yeah, we did, because our followings were bigger. And so we just thought we'll just move the larger audience. And so we have very strategically transitioned. And so we've kept both names in the title so that they're both still searchable.
Okay.
For SEO purposes, but everything, the handles all changed to Western Heating Air across everything. And we just explained what was going on. And we've got a few little reminders pinned. But beyond that, it's been a pretty simple transition.
That's awesome. So if you go and look, what is the handle, just so I don't butcher it?
Western Heating Air.
Okay, if you go look at Western Heating Air, you'll see that the social media content is probably different than some of it you'll totally recognize, but some of it too, you may not have never thought to be a part of your trades company social. So what inspired you to start creating content? And tell us a little bit about the beginning, because you start off like everyone else with no followers and no content. And so how was that?
Yeah, we started a long time ago and just kind of posted what everybody else posts, which is, discounts or promotions or things going on in our company, and our following kind of remained stagnant. And basically out of sheer necessity, because we were a small business with barely any marketing budget, I thought, hey, this is free. And I think that Doug and Brent and I are hilarious, but we're just
they are. They're so funny. If you haven't been on our social media, check it out.
Yeah, we're funny to ourselves. And so I thought, you know what do we have to lose? And so we just started posting like weird, random things. And all of a sudden we started getting this following. And I thought, people just want to follow real people. They don't want to follow a heating and cooling company. But because we were posting ourselves, being ourselves, people began to feel like they knew us and liked us and trusted us, and they would do business with us as friends.
Yeah, for sure. So I think not everybody's funny, unfortunately. I'm not, but having that is it's amazing. But you post a lot of content that I think everyone else could bring into their strategy. So when did you start shifting? And I'm thinking of like, you post things that are going on in Utah. You post like reviews on games you post a lot of things that would relate to, I'm guessing, your audience, right? Like the women in your community. So when did you start bringing that into your strategy, and how do you come up with those ideas?
Well, a big piece of it was I didn't have very many people to help me. And so I kind of took it on myself. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if you're waiting for technicians or other people that work there to provide you with content, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And I thought, so I had this huge imposter syndrome of like, I'm not a plumber. I'm not a heating and cooling technician. What qualifies me to speak on this? But no one else was sending me content because they're all busy working. And so I just started providing content from my perspective, which is the homeowner. And it resonated with people. It's a lot more relatable than here's a plumber out in the field. Isn't it awkward when a plumber comes into your house and what are we supposed to be doing? Like that kind of humor and that kind of relatability. And so I just thought, I'm going to lean in. I'm not going to pretend I'm an HVAC technician and an expert in the field. And of course I do bring experts in and I do, get the information. But for the most part, I'm just speaking as the average homeowner. Like, how would I explain to myself how to change my filter? How would I explain to myself how to clean this drain out? Just that. And I think it created more relatable content. And then from there, it kind of became a genuine relationship where people engage and comment, and I engage and comment with their accounts. People would start to DM me and we would have real conversations like you would have with a friend. And so then I started incorporating, I would tell my friend about this cool TV show, and I would tell my friend about a cool snack I found at Costco. And so I try just maybe 10 to 20% is just kind of what's going on around town. I would tell my friend about this cool free thing at the zoo, that type of thing. So just kind of intertwined that while, of course, keeping our business and heating and cooling and plumbing central.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question. Like, do you have a strategy around how much of each type of content you're creating? Like, do you sit down with a content calendar at the beginning of the month and like really, sketch this out? Like, what does your process look like?
I honestly do. I have a plan at the beginning of every month and I've got everything filled in. I'm currently trying to post like 2 to 3 times a day, at least on Instagram and TikTok, and then once on Facebook and YouTube. And I try to have everything mapped out and be very strategic about it. But then I also leave room for it to be super fluid. So if a cold snap comes, we're going to talk about that. If something's going on in our community, we're going to talk about that. I don't schedule my content ahead of time. I'll schedule that morning and have it post, because if something is going on in the world or in our community, I don't want to be tone deaf to that and have some scheduled post come out with some odd thing. And so I try not to have anything like super permanent. I have a plan and I create the content about a week in advance and I've got it all kind of on board, but everything is super fluid and changes. And if a plumber does send me content this afternoon, I will post it this afternoon.
Do you ever go out on the jobs with them to get the content, or do you incentivize the team for getting content?
I do. I've tried that and it's not super effective because, to be honest, they are really busy and I don't want to put that on them. So I try to, every Thursday, I'll go out on a job, whether it's an install or a service job, and get some footage. I'll take lunch or snacks. A lot of times my husband also works for the business. And so a lot of times I'll have him get that if he's running parts out or running lunch out to them. them. But yeah, I try and put that on myself and not on them.
Okay, so how long, because everybody wants like something that happens tomorrow, right? But like how long did this take you? Like you're already saying you're posting 3 times a day. That's a lot of content that you're putting out there. And you also said, and I think you already said it, but I'll let you say it. Like how long did it take you to get here? And what were there like some pivotal moments that you remember? Like something that went super viral and grew your account by 10,000, because I know that sort of thing can happen rather than the trickle in of like 15 new followers every day. So tell us about that.
Yes, we've had a few things go super viral and gotten a lot of followers. But the reality is, as a local home service business, you don't need to go viral. It's not important. If we were running like a t-shirt business online, of course, that would be huge for our business. But I really try and focus on having content and engaging with our real local customers, our local homeowners, that local audience, real people, real businesses in our community. And if it happens, but a lot of times those huge influx of followers aren't going to be your potential customers. And so I really don't focus on the follower count. I don't focus on if something went viral, because for this certain business, it's not, you don't need that. And so whether you have 42 followers or whether you have 10,000 followers, put out your content. Those 42 people, if they're people in your community, that's a big audience. If you had 42 people sitting in a room and you could speak to them for free 3 times a day, you would. So I don't stress out if you have a very small audience or if you're not getting a lot of views. It's not that important with a local home service business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's crazy what even a small audience can do in social media. And I think it's more of just like a consistency thing than anything else. The more that people see you, the more they start to see you and
100%.
remember you. So do you do any collaborations? And if so, how do you find who to collaborate with?
Very few. We've done a few. I have some influencers that just were honestly just organic customers of ours, that as their audience has grown and our audience has grown, they've reached out and said, hey, can we shout you out for a free tune-up? And of course we say yes, but we don't do anything really beyond that. We've done some content in conjunction with like solar companies or things talking about different energy saving things that relate to both industries, but not a lot. Honestly, not a lot of collaboration.
Yeah, those are still really good though. And I think that that's an important tip, that you could encourage your customers to create content around their experience with you. Even I know a lot of people have done testimonial videos, but I was doing a webinar yesterday and it was brought up this idea of like, why not encourage your customers to create videos, especially if they're already creating content? It could be a really, really cool way to promote your business. And so I love that you guys have had that experience. Have you been able, and I know you haven't done very much of it, but do you think that that was impactful? Like, did more people see it? Did you experience growth? Did anybody call you about it, or that you could place any sort of number on it?
Yeah, I think it's been great. And we do have homeowners that will tag us and, post the guys bringing their new equipment in and things like that. One thing we do is so at Western, they have the red handkerchief promise, which is what we stand behind, that we'll do the job right. We're honest. We do things with integrity. And that's kind of become like our logo. And so one thing we do is we hand out dog treats to customers, and there's a red bandana in there for their dog. And it's got our handle on there and just says, hey, tag us in a picture of your dog. And so people will do that a lot, which has been really fun. So then we can just repost that to our stories or things like that. And people think that's really fun. So that's been one little thing we've done that kind of helps get the customers a little bit more engaged with it.
I love that. That's so simple. And I think a lot of times a lot of companies struggle with like, what do we give the homeowner? Even in like a community event or a parade, like what can we give them that actually they'll keep or use, or it'll make some sort of impact? And so I think that's super cute, and it encourages them to talk about you on social media, which is like a win-win-win. So that's incredible.
I try to highlight local small businesses. So just kind of absolutely unsponsored, but hey, just kind of giving back that like local business love love. And in doing that, of course, they reciprocate. But I think because people know nothing that I ever say is sponsored, or, if I'm recommending a product or a business in our community, it's just because I love that business or that product. And people, of course, reciprocate that, which has been a fun way to build this community of other small local businesses, because it's hard and we're all trying and no one understands the grind like another small local business.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's also a great thing to use social media for. I see that huge on Instagram. That's one of the reasons that I think Instagram is a great platform, because it's a great place to connect with other small businesses in your area and support them online. And it helps get your name out there too. So what challenges do you think that you faced in social media or even in building this? And how did you have to overcome that?
So the biggest one, I think, first was the imposter syndrome of just going, I'm not the expert on this. So just kind of leaning into be yourself, be authentic, speak on what you know. And if that's being a mom at home, then speak on that. And I think people want to relate to real people. And so having a real face behind the brand, which brings me to my second biggest hurdle, which was I didn't want to show up on camera. I didn't like how I looked on camera. I didn't like how my voice sounded on camera. And I was taking this social media class, and the instructor was saying, you've got to be the face of the brand. People want to connect with people. They don't want to connect with a business. I said, well, I'm not comfortable. And she's like, you look how you look. Like, I see you right now, and that's how you look. Like, people are looking at you. They see you out in the world. How you speak is how you sound. And I was like, she's like, you're not nervous going to the grocery store? I was like, oh yeah, nobody cares. And so I just kind of got over it and started showing up and thought, who cares if your hair looks weird or if your voice sounds weird? That's just who I am. And leaning into genuinely who you are, people can feel that if you're being authentic or if you're putting on a, business face. And so just be who you are and put out content and stop overthinking it and over judging yourself or analyzing it. Honestly, my strategy has been quantity over quality. So even if it's not perfect, I just put it out there and people respond and relate to it. They're not waiting for a polished, edited TV commercial from me.
Well, and you learn as you do that. That's the best way to learn and get comfortable and
putting in the reps.
Right. So I think I've been told this is your full-time position is social media for Western. Is that right?
Yes, I do a lot of other branding and marketing things as well, but social media is definitely my main focus.
So I'm curious, because it is a hard thing to measure return on, how do you measure the return on your social media work?
It is challenging. That's definitely, and I think having the people that you work for and report to understand that it is a branding play. It's a very long game. It's a relationship building tool. It is not you put in A, you're going to get B. And so if someone that you're reporting to is saying, I want to see these KPIs, you're going to have a really hard time proving that. So I do also produce all of our paid social content, and I try to do it in kind of the same voice and the same type of content. And so it is a little, it's obviously easier to measure those results. And so we can see that as this audience grows and this content takes off, that is improving. Those results are improving. And we can see, the web traffic from our organic social media. But I do think the biggest win for me is so my brother-in-law, Brent, who built Main Street, he is one of our comfort advisors. And I remember the first time he went to someone's house and knocked on their door for an estimate, and they opened the door and went, oh, Brent, I know you. I know your dog. I know your kids. I know your wife. Come in. And he said, that was it. We were friends. They knew me. I didn't have to sell them on anything. They wanted to do business. They weren't looking for a discount or the cheapest price. They wanted to support me as their friend. And it totally changes how you can do business when you've built a genuine relationship and they already like you, they know you, and they trust you. You can bypass all of that. And so for me, that is my biggest goal. That is my biggest win, is that people already like us, know us, and trust us when we show up at their house.
That was so powerful. I think that it makes such a huge difference when you're not competing on price. And in some marketing, you are, right? You're just trying to show up. But when you invest in these branding things like building relationships, and you can do that through social media, when you go to the home, you're not having to sell yourself. You've already won the game.
Yeah. And I feel like especially this new generation, like the Gen Z, they want to do business with people they know. They want to do businesses with people. They want to do businesses with local people and people that share their values. They've really put their money into those things. And I think it's changing the way businesses communicate.
Absolutely. I think you've given us a lot of advice, but the last question before I have my real last question, but the last question I have for you is what advice would you give to, okay, so not everybody has the amount of time to invest in this, right? But if somebody was in charge of the social media for their trades company, or if it's a family that owns it and there's someone who wants to start doing this, what would you tell them? Like how to start, how to come up with a good strategy?
I think the first thing is you need to be on the platforms. You need to be consuming the content. You won't understand the type of content or the tone if you're not consuming the content. And in doing that, you'll meet other companies. I follow you on TikTok and I've gotten a ton of great information from you. So you'll get that type of information, but also you'll just understand the platforms and the type of content that's appropriate for that platform. The second thing is don't overthink it. Do not go buy equipment. Your phone is your best friend. That's all you need. You don't need microphones and cameras and lighting. It's going to perform better if it looks like a shaky phone video. So don't overthink it and don't overproduce anything or edit anything. And the other thing is the more things you try, the quicker you're going to come across what works. So try lots of different things and then look at your analytics and see what your audience resonates with and then produce more of that type of content. But really don't overthink it. Don't overjudge it. Anything can be content.
Absolutely. I love that. This has been so amazing. So the last question that I like to ask here, and I'll ask each of you guys, because I think that when we're trying to figure out how someone else got success, we're like, what was the one thing? Like, what was the silver bullet? And we know it's not that, but what was the key to your success? So Angie, I'll start with you. What was the key to your marketing success?
Well, I think it comes down to building relationships and building, like Laura said, you have to have actual true relationships and friendships with these people. And so getting into the community and just being present, whether it's through social media or actively in person, don't be afraid to build relationships because some of our biggest customers started with a handshake at a bank. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have just made some of the best. There's something that just a paid media ad cannot do that a true relationship can do, because if they like you, they will refer you to everyone. And that's really the marketing you cannot buy.
Yeah, I love that. That's so great. And Laura, what about you? What is the key to marketing success?
For me, I think it's been you need to genuinely believe what you're saying. And so I can genuinely say, I love this industry. I love this company. I have a huge passion for it. And I think it comes through. People can feel that and they like that. And it's the same thing. Like if I'm hiring someone to do my flooring, the weird guy that is obsessed with flooring, that's the guy you want. The person that lives and breathes and eats flooring. And so I think just lean into that. Like that's who you are. And I think the only thing genuinely that's going to differentiate you just instantly from your competitors is yourselves, the people in your business. The thing that sets us apart from our competitors is our people, our incredible installers, our incredible technicians. It's the people. So put those out. Show them.
Yeah.
And nobody can replicate that.
Yeah.
Like no one can replicate you. So be you. I love that. Such good advice.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I lied because I do have one more question, but where can people find you online? I know we've said it before, but we'll say it here at the end so they can see all the great things that you're doing on social media. If you'll just share your handles.
Yes. So Western Heating Air on Instagram. It's Western Heating and Air on TikTok. I believe it's Western Heating Air on all of the other platforms. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, X, YouTube, so LinkedIn, pretty much anywhere you can find us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. This was awesome. And
Thank you so
I will
much for having
see you
us.
soon. Bye-bye.